What is up, guys? Welcome back to the crypto world. And in my opinion, this is going to be probably the most important Cardano video I have made yet. I've made two Cardano Opportunity of a Lifetime videos, and I've made four videos on Cardano total. But this is the most important one because this is the price range that I've been talking about since the beginning. I've said we'll probably need to take out the lows at 17 cents. And that is kind of like the base case of what needs to happen before Cardano's next cycle will start. Even come down, take out these lows. Either way, I've been aware that we might come down, take out these lows. And to prove it to you, this is a text between me and my friend Jackson from August 4th of last year. He asked me, what are my thoughts on Cardano's these days? I said, I still love it. Objectively, though, it's very possible we need to purge all the lows, meaning I could see one final sweep of the lows into 17 to 20 cents. Guys, this was August 4th. This was when we were in this range here. I was aware that this is a pretty possible outcome, and I've been aware of it for a long time. Now I am prepared to get on the train for next cycle, because now once we finally manipulate these lows, in my opinion, it's going to be very similar to last cycle where we manipulate the lows and then it's off to the races. Manipulate the lows, off to the races. Now we are at those lows, beneath those lows at 17 cents. And I've been aware that this could happen. Now, it's not to say that I don't think Cardano could keep going lower, because I think it could. But if we're talking about a pure cryptocurrency cycle standpoint, is buying and dollar cost averaging beneath the lows of, I think it was, 2023, the lows of 2023, buying beneath these lows, is this going to be a long term opportunity for the next cryptocurrency cycle? In my opinion, yes. I think it's going to be undeniably, when we look at it in the future, undeniably, we're going to have our next cycle at some point, and there's going to be another cycle for Cardano. They say it every cycle. They say there's never going to be another cycle.
Well, all this terrible price action in crypto has given us pause and forced us to ask a tough question. Should we continue to cover Bitcoin? And the answer is sadly no. So today we are having a funeral for Bitcoin. It was fun while it lasted, so many memories, so many friends. There was Tom Lee and his calls for 20,000 by year end. There was Novogratz and his calls for 40,000. And there was Ripple. I think we'll miss you most of all, Brad Garlinghouse.
He mentioned Bitcoin. You said you didn't know what we were talking about. We pretty much always have some crypto conversation with you. I'm just curious, because I don't think we've talked to you since...
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
Because you just think the whole thing just is
going to zero?
Going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped-up fraud. It's a pet rock.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
really?
Of course, yeah.
If you believe in Bitcoin, there's no reason you shouldn't believe in Cardano as well. Because the same thesis of store of value that exists with Bitcoin is the same with Cardano. It's the exact same. This is how the crypto markets work. Once every single person believes something has failed, it's almost like that is exactly when the market comes back alive. Now, something else I want you guys to consider is a core issue with people saying Cardano has failed in general. You have an asset that is scarce and decentralized, and on top of that has so many other actual real world use cases, like decentralized applications, lending protocols. You have smart contracts, privacy layer, midnight. It's a self-governing blockchain. The list goes on, right? It's a giant list of all these ways that we can improve money. But yet, you have something like Bitcoin, which I love Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin so much because it is simple. All it has is scarcity and decentralization. And it is the most successful cryptocurrency in the world. It is worth over $1 trillion. But then you have to ask yourself, if something like Cardano can fail, which is also scarce and decentralized, and it has all these other use cases, but it can just fail out of the blue because society just loses interest in it, well, then you better be concerned that the same could happen one day with Bitcoin. There's nothing against the laws of physics that says that society as a whole can lose interest in a cryptocurrency. So this is the core of why I don't think Cardano will fail. I'm not saying Cardano or Bitcoin, either of them will fail. I think both of them will succeed. It's more or less saying why I think it won't, why it doesn't matter how sentiment is in the short term, because it's scarce and decentralized. At the end of the day, everything else, in my opinion, is bonus. And we can see that with how successful Bitcoin is. I think you have an asset that's scarce and decentralized, a cryptocurrency that's scarce and decentralized, it's going to trend up against the dollar over time. Once again, that's my opinion. You can disagree with me, but I really do think that that will happen going forward, and you have already seen that happening with Bitcoin. So now you have something that's scarce and decentralized that has all these additional real world use cases. It just doesn't make sense that there would not be a third cycle. And I think once more people actually understand Cardano and understand all these real world use cases and the benefits of having it be used as money one day, right? I'm not saying right now, but I'm saying eventually we'll get a third cycle. We will. I don't know when, but I think it will happen. Another thing about Cardano is the blockchain has never gone down, ever. For comparison, Solana's gone down 7 times. 7 times in its entire history. But you have something like Cardano, which is the blocks have never stopped forming. There's never been a full halt. Now, the same is true with Ethereum, but Ethereum has had finality issues. Blockchain saying we don't know for sure if the blocks are going to form, but they might. Cardano's always for sure had the blocks always forming, and the blockchain has always been up and running. Cardano has had something happen in 2025 that was a bug, but it got patched within like 15 hours. But that was the only time Cardano has ever had any issues. Then the other issue I have with both Solana and Ethereum is you have inflation. What's the point of it being a cryptocurrency if there's going to be inflation? Solana has a set inflation every year. It'll show up on the screen for how much it inflates per year. And Ethereum has no max supply. It can be deflationary sometimes, but it can also be inflationary just based off of how much it's being used versus how much is being burned. But Cardano will always, same with like Bitcoin, always have no more than 45 billion in circulation. And that is why I love it, because at the end of the day, you can trust that. You can trust that just as much as you can trust that there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. Okay, guys, so I was going to end the video there, but I realized there's one more important thing that I need to say. And that is, I want to remind you guys that money itself is an illusion. $100 is more valuable than $10 only because everyone in society agrees that an $100 bill is 10 times more than a $10 bill. It's an illusion. It's all paper. It's just agreed upon. The problem is that paper is run by a government. It's run by people who, when they are not put in checks and balances, are going to print it to oblivion. That's why the debt is 40 trillion. 40 trillion now. And sorry guys if you think that it's going to magically go away. It's not. They're going to keep printing money. So if money itself is an illusion, why don't we just want as a society to pick the money that is going to be the best for society? Why wouldn't we want to pick the money that is going to be truly decentralized, that is scarce, like Bitcoin with 21 million, like Cardano with 45 billion. Why wouldn't we want money that is actually sound? If it's all an illusion anyways, why don't we want money that we don't have to trust anyone with? Yes, the world is the way that it is right now. Yes, the government can print as much money as it wants right now. But that doesn't have to be the way that it has to be forever. We, the people, get to decide our own future, just like the founding fathers decided that they were going to create a country that had core fundamental freedoms that they didn't have before. We can decide as a society to utilize currency that is actually sound. We don't have to use broken currency. We can, as a society, break out of this illusion, okay? It doesn't have to be this way forever. And that is my hope for the future, that cryptocurrency, not just Cardano, not just Bitcoin, but as an asset class, will continue to grow and become real money. And the people who don't get it are trapped in that fixed mindset of the illusion that dollars are valuable because dollars are valuable. The reality is we can pick anything that we want to be our money. And why wouldn't we pick something that is based off of science, that is based off of sound principles and sound economics? We can have that future, but we have to fight for it.